Hey Mixers, welcome back to another college football player props and game bets video. Last week we missed our one game bet, but we did go 5 for 5 on the player props with one sixth player who got refunded because he got hurt in the game. So that was incredible. That's obviously not going to happen every week, but I do have a lot of bets for you this week in week 4. So let's go ahead and jump into that recap really quick. All right, you guys. So like I said, we had an incredible day in college football playoffs last week, or not playoffs, sorry, college football last week. So if you want to get in the mix for the cash giveaway that we like to give out, you just choose 2 of our best bets that you think are going to hit. And if they do, you'll be in for a cash prize giveaway from me, just completely free. So you make sure you're subscribed, like the video, and just comment which of my 2 best bets do you think are going to hit. I did want to cover some of the bets. So Kansas State at Arizona, I thought that Kansas State was going to win by 6. I said that in a couple comments online, and they lost by 6. So that was kind of funny that I picked the correct ending spread, but not the correct team. So there's something definitely wrong with Kansas State. I might have to stay away from them the rest of the year. Aaron Anderson over 69.5 receiving yards. He had 75 for LSU. DJ Lagway over 208.5 passing yards. He got there, but I was a little worried about it because he threw like 3 or 4 interceptions, and I thought they might bench him, and he had not gone over this number yet, but they left him in, and he did go over for us. Lenore Sellers did get hurt and left the game early, so I did get refunded on that. Nick Harbor, his receiver, went over 47.5 yards with the backup, so he got 66. Justice Haynes over 21.5 longest rush. It, depending on where you look, it is scored differently. So I think that Underdog made a mistake and they scored my bet wrong because according to ESPN, he only had a longest rush of 20 yards because he did have a 70-yard rush that was called back on a penalty. But Underdog paid me out, so I'm counting it as a win for now. That's several days now, and they haven't taken the money back. So, and then Nico Yamalieva, we don't like him here on this channel. I saw him over 300. That was crazy. So I jumped on that under 305.5 combo yards, and he only had 250 in his 3rd straight loss for UCLA. So that does bring our record up closer to the 50% mark, which is fantastic. We're still trying to recover from that terrible week 1 that we had. All right, here is that bet that I just wanted to show you. So I got paid out on this bet, even though Justice Haynes did not get his longest rush, unless I'm just seeing things wrong. But I combed through the play-by-plays, and to me it looks like that 70-yard rush was called back, and that his next longest besides that was only 20 yards. So we should have lost this bet, but we won it, so I don't know. All right, the game slate. These are a couple of games that we want to target some player props in. Florida at Miami. I haven't put any player props for that game yet, but I think it's going to be a good game. And then Arizona State and Baylor is going to be a great game, in my opinion. All right, here are some game bets for you today. I'm going to take a lot of Big 12 teams. I'm taking some homer teams. I'm from Utah, so you don't have to follow me on this, but BYU is going to play East Carolina. They are undefeated so far, but they haven't had any real competition. And East Carolina is not really any real competition either, but they are maybe a little bit better than the teams that they've already played. The spread is 6.5 to 7, which I think is too low. So I think you could take BYU on the spread, but I'll just take BYU in a moneyline parlay. Minus 265 is the price I got on BYU. And obviously I put that in a parlay for some plus money. So I'll show you what I did at the end. BYU has looked really good, but they have not been tested yet. So some team could always come in and surprise them. Texas Tech at Utah. So Texas Tech is coming to Utah for this division matchup or conference matchup, however you want to say it. The Utah money line is only minus 166. Last week it was minus 3,000. So you can kind of see the difference in opponent between last week and this week. Utah is 3-0. Texas Tech is 3-0. Neither team has really been tested yet. So I like Utah to win this game at home. It is early in the morning, though, which is kind of odd. Usually they play later in the day, like at night. But they have a great defense. They're playing at home. I don't see any reason why Texas Tech should win this game other than their quarterback has been playing really well. And they've been playing really well, but against bad teams. They haven't played each other since the 70s, so we don't have really head-to-head data on this. And I'm going to just lean towards Utah with the home field advantage and the better defense. All right, SMU at TCU. I think this is going to be a really fun rivalry game to watch. I am taking TCU on the money line to win this one. Last year, these two teams played, and SMU won this matchup, and it was in SMU. So the home team won. I'm betting on the home team to win again. I didn't want to touch the spread because I think this game could end up being, I don't really know. It could be a blowout or it could be close. And I really didn't have a good read on it. So I'll just take TCU to win it at home. It's a rivalry game, and TCU has dominated this series recently, but SMU did win last year, like I said, as the home team. All right, Wyoming at Colorado. I took Wyoming plus 14.5 as an alt spread, so I just bought one more point to get that 2 touchdowns. So Colorado is going to need to win by more than 2 touchdowns at home. They have been struggling this year, and so I'm not sure if they can do that. Although if they can win this game, which the odds seem to suggest that they can, maybe they just pile on. I'm not sure if that's going to be their mindset or not, but I just took that extra point in a parlay, so I will show you that. Michigan at Nebraska. I took Nebraska on the money line here, you guys. Michigan has not impressed me. I don't understand why they're ranked, to be honest. They haven't done anything of note. They haven't beat any really good teams, in my opinion. The one good team that they've played, they lost the game. So I don't understand why they're ranked here. I don't understand why everyone's on them. I do think overall they probably are the better team, like with Nebraska. But Nebraska is playing at home. And that home crowd for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, I mean, they are famous for it. That is a rough home crowd to play against. So I am going to take Nebraska on the money line here for some plus money. But I would not be surprised if Michigan does pull out the win here. I am going to be betting on Dylan Raiola as well in this game. All right, Justice Haynes for Michigan is going to be our first player prop, even though I just told you I like Nebraska. I'm taking him over 82.5 rush yards. We just took him last week over his longest rush. Probably going to be betting on this guy every single week. He's just getting 16 to 20 carries a game. He's had a touchdown in every single game, but that is a goblin play, so you could bet on that, but it's going to be a reduced payout. These two lines are going to be normal payouts, and I like them both, but I'm officially rolling with the 82.5 rush yards just because I got lucky on the longest rush last week with it technically not hitting, but they paid it out, so I don't know. Yeah. Devin Dampier, this is the quarterback for BYU. Not BYU, Utah, the Utah Utes. He transferred over from Idaho State, I believe, over 218.5 passing yards. So he has done this twice already this year. Did not go over in one of the games, but he didn't. Oh, no, he's only done it once this year. Yeah, that's right. But he didn't need to. These were easy wins, right? Except the Wyoming game. That game, they were up 3-0 at halftime, and then the second half was just crazy. So that one was a little bit different, but he is going to be needed to pass in this game. And I think you can pass on Texas Tech. It's definitely possible, but he is a runner too. He is a good runner. So I see the possibility of him not going over this line and getting, just under 200. But I took it, and it is a little bit of a homer pick. I picked them, obviously, to win the game. And now I'm betting on the quarterback who has never really been tested yet, and we don't know for sure how he's going to perform against an actually good team. But I took it. You don't have to. Let me know what you think in the comments. Josh Hoover, one of the best quarterbacks in college football, in my opinion, quarterback for TCU. And they are playing that rivalry game with SMU that we talked about earlier. I'm going to take him over 304.5 passing yards. When I wrote this, it was 300. But by the time I got to bet on it, it was 304. So this might be moving up. I wouldn't want to bet on it if it moves up too much. If you see it at like 315.5, stay away from it, maybe even 310. But I did bet it at 304. I didn't love it, though. I wish I could have gotten, 300 or maybe 299, just barely under 300. But he is a ball slinger, and this is a rivalry game. So I do think the ball's going to be flying in this one, although I think both teams are pretty good at running the ball as well. He did go over this in 6 games last year, so about 50-50, including the SMU game, which was an away game that TCU lost. So it's a little bit better than a coin flip that we're betting on here, in my opinion. All right, Jordan Dwyer is his number one wide receiver, his ex-receiver, over 79.5 receiving yards. So he has hit this in his 2 games already this year. And then I wanted to show you the receivers from last year in the SMU game. He had 2 receivers, Jack Besh, the ex-receiver, with 166 yards, and Eric McAllister, the slot receiver, who is still on the team, over 100 with 114. So 2 wide receivers in this rivalry game went over 100 last year in an away game that they lost. So I am betting on the X receiver this year to get 80 yards. And you could look at the slot receiver as well, but I wanted the X receiver in this one. All right, Dylan Raiola, I'm taking a chance here over 223.5 passing yards. He's gone over 2 out of 3 games. One was close, but none of these games were really like, he wasn't being tested in these games except maybe the Cincinnati game, but not really. And so this will be a true test, going up against Michigan, which is a tough team, but I think the Cornhuskers can do it. Dylan Raiola is a decent passer, and other quarterbacks have been able to pass on Michigan, even though they haven't really faced a super great quarterback. But other quarterbacks have been able to pass on them. The OU quarterback did go over his line against them. Or, well, I don't know if he went over his line, but he went over this line against them. All right, Josh Cameron of the Baylor Bears over 56.5 receiving yards. I actually think I got it at like 54.5 on one site, and that is where I bet it, but 56 is where it is most places. He has only gone over this once, and he was close in that game opener against Auburn. So this might seem a little bit scary to you, but when Mississippi State played this team, he had 2 receivers that went over 100 against ASU. And so I don't think Sawyer Robertson, who has thrown for over 400 yards in 2 games, is going to have any problem getting his number 1 wide receiver over this line. I didn't want to bet on Sawyer Robertson, though. His line is around 300, and that I think he can do it. It's not that I don't think he can do it. I just think ASU's defense does show up in some weird spots, and it's possible he just can't get there. So I have it as a lean. So I might bet it, I might not. I'm telling you as of right now, I have not bet on the quarterback, but I have bet on the receiver. All right, my leans here. First, we're taking Baron Morton under 260.5 passing yards against the Utah Utes. So he is the quarterback of the Texas Tech Raiders, and he went under in 5 of 9 conference games last year. He did just fine in the 3 openers last year, but then went under in over half of his games in the conference. And he did not play the Utes last year, but if you look at the teams he did play, the teams he went under against have the best defenses in the Big 12. So ASU, Cincinnati, Arizona, TCU, and ISU are the teams he missed against. Those teams are not really known for their defenses, but they're much better than the teams he went over against, which was Baylor, Colorado, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. So those teams have no defense. So I think he struggles here against the Utah Utes, but since I think the Utes will be winning the game, they might be in a passing game script the whole game, and so it will just be a matter of if he can make those throws or not, and I'm just going to lean against not. I think I have already bet this one, but it is just a lean, so keep that in mind. All right, TJ Harden over 63.5 rushing yards. And then, or you could take over 15.5 for the longest rush. So this is the running back for SMU. And last year they had Brashard Smith, who is now in the NFL. I think he's on the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's on the Chiefs. But anyway, he was able to go. Brashard Smith last year in the rivalry game had 127 yards on the ground. This year, TJ Harden has had a 115-yard game and a 96-yard game, and then a 42-yard game. So he's gone over in 2 out of the 3 games. Only one of those games was super competitive, and that was the Baylor game where they went into double overtime. But I think that this number, 63.5, is just a little bit too low in a rivalry game against TCU, who they have a decent defense, but it's not great. It's not an SEC defense. It's nothing special. So I do think he can get there. He also has had like 11, 40, and 37 for his longest rushes. So he's gone over his longest rush and doubled it twice. So I think either one of those is a good play. I think you can also find him for a touchdown at an even payout. And so I like that as well, because Brashard Smith had 3 touchdowns on the ground last year for this team. All right, Sawyer Robertson over 294.5 passing yards, quarterback for Baylor. I told you this was a lean. We are taking his number 1 wide receiver, Josh Cameron, over as a best bet. And then we're taking the quarterback as just a lean. So he has passed for over 400 yards twice this year. And those were 2 games that were competitive. And then in the 1 game that was not competitive, he did not hit this number. I do expect this game to be competitive against ASU, and they're playing at home. the Baylor Bears are playing at home. And so Sawyer Robertson probably will go over this number and probably will be slinging the ball. But I just think it's a high number. I probably will end up betting it, but it's just a lean. It's not a best bet. All right, so here is the summary here. I marked these. I colored these. I'm sorry, I didn't take it off, but I colored these to keep track of who I'd already bet on as I was putting in my slips, and I forgot to take it off. But maybe it'll be some good luck for us that they'll all hit. But first, I took Nebraska on the money line, half a unit. I took a money line parlay with Utah, TCU, and BYU, and then for plus 219. So that was pretty juicy for a half unit. And then I took a half unit on an alt spread parlay with Tulane, which we didn't talk about, so I'll talk about it now. Tulane plus 14.5. I believe the regular line is about 11.5 against Ole Miss. Ole Miss hasn't really been playing like any defense this year so far, and I think Tulane wants to make a statement. I don't know if they could win the game outright, but I do think that they're going to make it interesting at least. And so I just wanted to take them in a alt spread parlay with Wyoming, who we just bought 1 point for, and put those together, and you're going to get 184 for it. I like plus money, you guys. I don't like minus money. And so I do take a lot of parlays. I do take a lot of plus money. I only have to be right like less than half the time when we take plus money. So that's another thing that I like about it. So these are a lot less likely to hit than just taking a straight bet, but I like it. So those are the game bets that I like. And then I'm not going to read through all of the player props again. You can just take a screenshot or you can rewind to see why we're taking these plays. So in the comments, if you want to get in for the cash giveaway, just tell me 2 out of these 3 best bets that you think are going to hit. And if they do, then I'll put you in the running for a cash giveaway with everyone else who also got their bets right. And we'll give that away next week in the college football video for week 5. You can take the parlays as a bet, but it counts as one bet. So you can't just take, I think BYU is going to beat East Carolina at minus 265. You have to take the whole parlay as your best bet for this contest. And then my leans here, Baron Morton under 216.5 passing yards, TJ Harden over 63.5 rushing yards, or over 15.5 longest rush, and Sawyer Robertson over 294.5 passing yards. Good luck, everyone. We had an awesome week 3 in college football, and hopefully we'll have an awesome week 4. Thanks.